What is the cringiest thing you've done to woo your crush? Story 1. I was really into dragons growing up, like really into them. I had a book called Dragonology, which I had with me all the time. In the book, there was a language key for dragon runes. Well, me being my sly, mysterious self, I wrote her a love note in these runes with a little key on it so that she could figure it out. I didn't say it was from me. I slipped it into her locker and she confronted me the next day. I was amazed that she knew the note, the one written in dragon language, was by me, the kid that was obsessed with dragons. Thinking back, I must have came off like a greasy-haired zodiac. Oh god, when I was about 14, I knew a guy who was obsessed with his Dragonology book. He wrote me a note in those runes asking me to marry him and watched me decipher it. Oh no, are you from New York? Nah, the UK, but it's slightly reassuring to know I'm not the only person this happened to. Maybe next time, scale it back and try using a more universal language, OP. Story 2. When I was little, I saw Ice Age. There is a scene where Diego wakes up and yawns, and since he's a saber-tooth, you see his huge, awesome chompers. So I would sit in my chair facing my crush and yawn with a giant open mouth, baring my teeth, hoping to woo my fair lady. But alas, no luck. Flawless logic. Surprised it didn't work. The thing is, I didn't even do this just once. I kept going the rest of the school year. Can you imagine from this girl's perspective, a whole year of some guy yawning in your face? I probably would have found it insulting. Like, am I that boring to you? Story 3. I drew a picture for a girl in middle school to ask her out. It was of us holding hands in front of a sunset. She showed it to her friends and laughed at it with them. I don't think that was cringy, as it was incredibly sweet. She was just mean. Upshot, you dodged a relationship with a horrible human being. I agree, she didn't have to laugh at him. That's just plain rude. Story 4. When I was 17, I worked in the office at a construction company part-time. I'm a flirt anyway, but there was one young guy I actually had a crush on, so I always thought he was flirting with me. For his birthday, I found a doll-sized truck that looked exactly like his, and baked him a cake shaped like a garage with the truck inside. Yes, it was difficult and time-consuming. He said, "Wow, this is amazing. My wife is gonna love it too, and will probably want to know how you did this." Pro tip, guys in hands-on vocations often don't wear wedding rings for fear they will have to be cut off in an accident. His thoughts at the time must have been, crap, how many times can I mention my wife in the next sentence without it sounding odd? Story 5. When I was 14, I made a fake website for a fake movie to prove to a girl I was starring in a movie. The movie was for a remake of The Thing, since the game was popular at the time. The website was purposefully vague and mostly just blue text, almost like a viral site. And no, it did not get me laid because she was a lot smarter than I was. Well, was she impressed? Looking back, I'm sure she knew but never called me out. Count that as a win. Story 6. She was already in the process of giving me the thanks but no thanks, and in a bit of desperation I tried serenading her with some sweet no doubt over the phone. 18 years later, and we are happily married. 2 other people. Story 7. I wanted to be her partner when we got in pairs in Spanish class. I was mentally preparing how I was going to ask, but when the teacher said to find a partner, I just yelled her first name really loud. People stared at me and she was embarrassed, I think. It is one of those times where I look back and still cringe. Well, did she end up being your partner? This only gets better or worse if she says no. We were partners. I think she had a crush on me too, but I was so shy and inexperienced that I had no idea what I was doing, so of course nothing ever came of it. There is a reason why they are called the blunder years. Well, at least OP's mission was partly successful. Story 8. For the purpose of this post, my name is Mark. I saw a coin on the ground while talking to a girl and decided to show off how cool I was in a humorous way. I don't know why everyone thinks I'm so cool at everything I do. Hey look, a penny. I picked up the coin and then started celebrating. Go Mark, it's your birthday, it's your birthday. The humor being that I was oblivious to being cool at even the little things, like picking up coins. God, I was horrible. It hurts me to even read this. It's like your mom was embarrassing you, but you did it for her, and she wasn't even there. Story 9. In 5th grade, I was nothing but cringe. He came to my birthday party, so I was in love with him. This wasn't just a crush. I'd had those before. I wanted him in a way I had never wanted a boy before. Of course, being 11, I had no idea how to handle these new and confusing feelings. I also didn't bathe much because I'm slightly allergic to soap and nobody believed me. So I sat way too close to him, followed him around, and wrote his name surrounded by a heart on everything I owned so that he could see. I also made several threats towards his girlfriend. If I could, I'd reach back into the past and give young me a good slap. So all he knew was that a smelly girl was obsessed with him and followed him everywhere. Pretty much. I bet the entire time he was kicking himself for coming to my birthday party, since that's what kicked it off. He was one of the 2 people to show up. I wonder what kind of threats a 5th grader would make in a situation like this. Something like, break up with your boyfriend or I'll tell the teacher you cheat on all of your reading logs. Story 10. When I was in the 6th grade, my parents talked me into going to a week-long church camp. I knew of, but didn't know personally any of the kids going, but they told me that everyone would praise Jesus, ride horses, and have a great time. I decided to go. It was like a 6-hour drive in one of those big white vans. Quickly, everyone started whipping out their CD cases and exchanging music, and I instantly was like, crap, I only had 2 CDs, Britney Spears' Baby One More Time and Everclear. I was a really weird kid. Everyone was trying to talk to me about music, and I had honestly never heard of any of the bands they were talking about. I just wanted to jam to some Britney by myself, so naturally I went the elitist route and said I had all of that music, and I was listening to some new underground private stuff that they hadn't heard of. Once we get to camp, all I'm thinking is, let's find some friends quick because I can't talk to these kids anymore. I go to the pool and make some friends with a few older kids. There were 3 girls and 2 guys and me. They were all in the 8th grade, so obviously they were really cool. Plus, I thought the girls were really hot. I figured this would be the best time, if any, to get my first kiss. Their windshield wipers were turned up to the maximum because of all the games 6th grade me was spitting. We decided to leave the pool and walk around the camp until we all had to have a group meetup. The cabins were separated by grades, so they said they would walk by the 6th grade cabin and pick me up. First thing I do is put on my freshest outfit. Great time to break out my fresh white t-shirt. And can't forget my jean shorts. This was pre-faded denim, so they were industrial bright blue jean shorts. It was summer in Texas, so I might as well top the outfit off with knee-high white socks and of course for the ladies, Doc Martens. I looked like a weird redneck lumberjack, so I walk out and they're kind of like, WTF? But whatever, it's kiss time. We start walking and one of the older guys farts, and all of the girls laugh. Boom, found my in. My friend Travis and I have been making fart jokes for quite some time, so I'm up to speed on this area of humor. Bam, the other guy farts and all the girls laugh even harder. Got him. Now I'm thinking all I have to do is drop the biggest fart and the girls are going to laugh so hard they're all going to kiss me one by one. I start clenching and squeezing my stomach as hard as I can. I'm walking like a newborn deer. Then I feel it. Got a big one ready. So instead of just dropping it out and laughing, I wanted to make a big show about it. I run in front of the small group, squat down, turn my head around, and forcefully crap myself. This was all-out diarrhea. If you didn't know this before, early 90s denim was the least forgiving fabric in the world. Everyone knew I crapped. It's running down my leg and being soaked up by my knee-high socks. Instantly, I just react and start running, kicking up crap like mud off a truck. I've never been to this camp before, so I'm just running for anything. I find a bathroom and toss the socks, boxers, shirt, but I can't drop the jorts. I can't just walk across the church camp naked. Plus at this point, I'm thinking maybe they didn't really see it. I was really confident in my speed at the time, so I was thinking I could say that's my thing. I drop giant farts and then run before the smell catches me. Come to find out, not only were the 5 people I crapped in front of outside the bathroom waiting for me, but there were like 25 kids. Instantly, I just run in my docs and jorts combo back to the cabin I was staying in, with the other kids chasing me and yelling, "Crap pants!" I run to my bed and find all the music nerds I drove up with going through my CD case. It only has 2 CDs, and they're like, WTF? We thought you had tons of secret music, bro. Wait, did you crap your pants? So yeah, that was about 4 hours into a week-long trip. I really thought farting would impress these girls. I lost my favorite pair of jorts and pride that day. So did you go home, or did you seriously get stuck there for a whole week? This was pre-cell phone, so I had to write them a letter and send it the next day. I just wrote in the letter that I had a big accident. I ended up having to stay the entire camp though. Story 11. In high school, we were at callbacks for auditions for the school musical. The girl I was interested in was sitting in a chair backwards, straddling it while rehearsing her song. Genius idiot me decides that a great way to grab her attention is to football hike this 32-ounce shampoo bottle at her. So I grab it, yell to get her attention, and hike the bottle as hard as I can through my legs. The bottle hits the back of her chair. Luckily, it wasn't a few inches higher, or it probably would have knocked out a few teeth. Nevertheless, the impact with the chair explodes the shampoo bottle, and she is completely completely covered in Pantene Pro shampoo, just minutes away from her callback audition time. I guess it worked though. We've been together for 12 years now, married for 3. I need to know how that went into a relationship. This sounds like a love story I would actually enjoy. Please indulge me with how she didn't murder you, and if she got her part. Yes, she got the part. We went on our first date about a month later. Then we had a long-distance relationship for 9-ish years and finally got married and lived together in the same city. While it probably sucked at the time, I'm sure your wife looks back on that moment fondly. I'm happy it turned out well for you, OP. Story 12. We had a Valentine's Day thing in high school with Crush soda cans. You know, the drink. You paid $1 to have a can sent to someone. Orange Crush was for friendship, Red Crush was for love, and Purple Crush was for, well, a crush. I sent a Red Crush to my brother because I'm a rude little sister. That was great. But then I sent a purple one to a guy I liked, asking him to the Sadie Hawkins dance. I'm pretty sure he was pressured into saying yes, considering the can was delivered in class. Needless to say, he kept making excuses as to why he couldn't go. Story 13. I used to text girls to tell them I liked them, and then lie that a friend had sent the message before they even had a chance to reply. I left a girl a Valentine's Day card and watched her open it and get so excited, but sat quietly to let another boy reap the reward. I got dumped by a girl and spent the next 6 months calling her in tears. I was just so in love with her and she didn't care. One time she put me on speakerphone in front of all her friends and they took it in turns to laugh at me. I didn't deserve that, but it was like the wake-up call I needed to move on. Silver lining? Okay, a couple of phone calls I get. A long, uncomfortable period of figuring out where you fit now, I get. But 6 months of calling her crying? You had that coming. And I'm uncomfortable with how much that reminds me of young me. I didn't really put much detail into my original comment. I honestly didn't expect it to gather this much attention. It wasn't an everyday thing. We were in the same group of friends and saw each other a lot. Even though we broke up, we still called each other all the time. The crying thing was a huge exaggeration on my part. In a 6-month period, I maybe got upset with her 4 or 5 times, but it was only because I couldn't separate being friends versus being in a relationship with her, if that makes sense. So when we were talking and getting really close, it seemed like we were back on, but she didn't see it that way, so I'd get upset. Either way, it's a lesson learned. I was so into her and had, believe it or not, up to that point earned quite a Lothario reputation. These feelings were too much to handle and I couldn't understand what was going wrong. The only damage done was to my ego. Me and her cleared the air a few years later. She apologized for some things, me for others. We set our parts and moved on, never to speak with each other again. 10 years later, I've been with my girlfriend for 6 years and I couldn't be happier. Glad to hear I'm not the only one though. Story 14. I used to go get my friend, who had the same classes as my crush, and give her notes for me. This was cringeworthy on 3 counts. Number 1, I had never spoken to her before, not even a word. Number 2, if I had to send a darn note, why couldn't I deliver it myself by putting it in her locker or having the stones to hand it to her? Number 3, looking back at it, I'm pretty sure my friend would read the note to everyone in their class before giving it to my crush. Now, my friends, I'm sure you're thinking, meh, probably everyone did that at some point. Sure, it's a little cringy, but it happens at school. Well, apparently this girl got a bit fed up with my attempts to woo her with my penmanship, and in a frustrated rage called me out in front of a load of people for being such a little wet bag. She pretty much said something along the lines of, if you can't ask me out in person, don't bother. Now, I'm sure you're all thinking, what a great result. This guy's crush just told her to ask her out. No. We are forgetting I'm a squeaky-voiced, terrified young teen. I bolted in the face of this verbal assault, cheeks reddening with embarrassment. That's not all. I was so upset by this treachery from my crush that I decided to let my outrage be known to her. But of course, I'm still too terrified to speak to her. So I sent her another note with my friend. The last sentence. At that moment, I imagined you as some sort of hunched creature in the shadows. Interesting, seeing as that's where I wrote it from. At least OP has a great writing career to look forward to. Story 15. I had a phone that barely had the Facebook app. I thought I was searching her name to creep on her. I actually posted her name as my status. Yes, I've done this before too. Man, I remember she deleted me that very day I added her. Story 16. I picked flowers at night and put them in front of her door. I didn't even leave a note, or a name, or anything, just flowers. I even denied when she asked if they were mine. I don't know what I was trying to accomplish there. Killing flowers in her name, dropping off their remains by her door anonymously? I think the message was clear. You're next. Either that, or he's just preparing for his transition into becoming a cat. Story 17. I tried to sing her a song while playing it on the piano. I can't sing. I can't play piano. I just knew the basic tune and knew that the higher notes were to the left on the keyboard. I didn't even know the words to the song. Looking back, it was pretty obvious she didn't even want me to sing to her. She was just being polite. Oh god, OP, why did you make me relive this memory? The higher notes are on the right, unless there's such a thing as left-handed pianos. Oops, guess I proved my point. We gotta give him some points for effort, even if it was a terrible one. Story 18. I joined a club at school, then I spent a bunch of money I didn't really have going on club-related trips. I hoped it'd be my shot to get some alone time with her and make my move, but she ended up pulling out of the trip and I didn't know until we were about to leave. The amount of times I have attempted an elaborate way to be alone with my fancy, only to realize that either it was stupid, it was blatantly obvious what I was trying to do, or it would fall apart at the last minute. I still do this as well. I'm 27. I'm 29 and it doesn't get any better. This new year, I specifically went on a trip with our mates that she was not going on, so I wouldn't get drunk and make a fool of myself. Her plans changed, so then she ended up coming on the trip. I got drunk and fell over her like a fool. Story 19. In middle school, I got a tiny cut on my upper lip that ended up being unseeable halfway through the day anyway, but I didn't know that. I tried being tough and told the girl I got it from a fight with my mom. Please don't ask. It's made even worse by the fact that I'm a girl and she was definitely straight. God, why? Oh bless, we've all been there. I've been there too, but instead I asked her if she would kiss it and make it better. No kiss, but she laughed. Story 20. 9 years ago, when I was in high school, the small group of girls I was friends with became enamored with Alexander Hamilton. Consequently, as a lonely young dorky kid, I must have assumed that to be attractive to women, I decided I should become like Alexander Hamilton. Fast forward a year and I finally was going on a date with someone. There was an awkward silence. What do I do? What do I talk about? Economic policy, of course. So I rambled for half an hour about macroeconomics and then wandered over to game theory and explained the relationship between the prisoner's dilemma and the tragedy of the commons. It turns out that she wasn't even listening to any of that. She did enjoy the way my voice sounded, even if she wasn't listening to me. So the date still went all right. Story 21. In middle school, I was on the wrestling team, and I was one of the better guys. The team often practiced in the same gym as the girls' basketball team, and the girl I liked played on the team. In an attempt to woo her, I thought it would be cool if I showed my manliness by beating my partners. I lifted this one kid super high and slammed him. The kid got knocked out and I had to sit out of practice for being too rough. Well, that plan really backfired. You probably scarred her more than anything, but you definitely made a lasting impression. Story 22. I was in 4th grade and my parents knew I had a crush on a girl in my class, so they gave me a teddy bear to give to her. I spent the entire day with a teddy bear in my backpack because I was too shy to give it to her. However, we had band practice at the end of the day, and I found the perfect opportunity to hide it in her backpack when no one was looking. When everybody was walking out of the building to go home, she pulled it out of her backpack and was like, "What's this?" I thought to myself, "Ah yes, I'm smooth," until one of the girls that was with her said to me, "Hey, blah blah has your teddy bear." I denied that it was mine a few times while the girl insisted it was mine before I ran off. I did get her phone number at some point later on, but her dad answered when I called and that scared me enough to not try again. Still, 4th grade. Kids these days will never know the fear of calling a girl's house and having the dad answer. Story 23. In 7th grade, I asked out every girl I found attractive, in one night, over AOL Instant Messenger. It still keeps me up at night. Hey, you have to shoot your shot. At least you didn't do it in a single group message. Story 24. We were sitting on a swing together. She was leaning against me and I was so incredibly nervous. I'd never even kissed a girl before. She looked at me longingly and I knew it was coming. I reached up and gently touched her lips, trying to convince myself I could get the courage to just kiss this girl that so obviously wanted me to. My brain was in full-on panic mode. I'd never had a panic attack before, but it was definitely happening now. I had completely short-circuited and I slowly pushed my fingers into her mouth and started feeling around inside her cheek. She was so confused. She just kind of looked at me sideways like a cat trying to figure out how you're making a blanket move. I removed my fingers and she got up and walked away, pausing once to look back at me, expecting an alien to have taken my place. I never had the guts to talk to her again. Oh no, I'm sorry. I wonder if she still goes around thinking about how she knew this guy growing up who thought he'd kissed her by shoving his fingers into her mouth. Story 25. In middle school, I had a crush on a kid, only I had a crush on him the second I saw him walking out of a guitar lesson, so I decided to teach myself how to play from YouTube. One day, he brought his guitar to school and was showing off to his friends. I walked up to them and pulled off an amazing riff that I had been practicing. He just kind of looked at me embarrassed. Turned out he wasn't really that good at guitar, and he never brought it to school again. So I crushed on a kid who played guitar, decided to learn how to play, and within 6 months was 10 times better than said crush. The crush was embarrassed, and all dreams of my crush returning affection after public humiliation were zero. That was the moment he realized that you were too good for him. He might have been impressed in a completely different scenario, but no one likes to be shown up in front of their friends, and this certainly came off as trying to show him up. Story 26. I got sent to church camp when I was 8 or 9. I saw this really cute boy around, and using what I'd learned from movies and television, I figured out the perfect way to get his attention. So he and about 20 other people saw me walk by in a slow motion for at least a solid minute, and when I turned back and saw him staring at me in awe, I smiled and gave him a cute little wave, in slow-mo. When I finally realized that my life is not a movie, I was grateful that I never saw any of those people ever again. Story 27. In the 8th grade, I printed out Green Day lyrics and wrote "I love you" on the end. Then I taped them all over her desk and chair. Somehow it didn't work out. I feel so much better about myself. I did all sorts of things like these. Maybe I wasn't as big of a naive kid as I thought. Just normal. Happy to help, I guess. Story 28. So much crappy teenage poetry that I thought was deep. I found a couple of them a few months ago and had to resist the urge to cringe my way into traffic. Crappy poetry was my thing. I'm so glad my teenage angst poetry got lost along the road of life. I have nightmares that while receiving an award for my writing, someone will stand up and start reading the lost Cringefest poetry. This is why I feel bad for the poetry of today's youth. Can you imagine someone being able to find that through Google forever? Story 29. In elementary school, there was a necklace pair that was each half a heart that fit together at the kids' bookstore thing. I bought it and put one half on her chair thinking she'd find me and the other half and we'd fall in love. I'm dying just thinking of it 20 years later. That's actually super freaking cute. I'm glad someone thinks so, because all she did was ask the girls in the class who lost their necklace. Story 30. The teachers at my old school really enforced the no running in the hallway rule we had, and one day my crush was running to get to her class or friends or something. So I stopped her, being the teacher's pet I was, and told her she was getting a ticket for running. I said the payment was her number. The piece of paper I had given to her was thrown in my face and she ran off. It seems like she wasn't much of a rule follower. If you were the teacher's pet, it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. Story 31. We'd known each other for 10 years. We dated for a long time as well. She asked me to marry her a few years ago out of the blue. I was not prepared and laughed it off as a joke. It was not a joke, and I'm an idiot. Anyhow, we grew apart because of my idiocy. I wouldn't pay her enough attention. I wouldn't do the things she likes, like walking on the beach or dancing, but when she left me, it literally broke my heart. Yes, literally. I'm pretty sure I heard the distinctive crackle of my heart shattering. She started dating another guy. The pain grew bigger. I'm an amputee, and losing an arm was a breeze next to losing her. We still kept seeing each other as friends, but it was an absolute nightmare. I couldn't and still can't sleep or eat. At most, I'm sleeping 4 hours every other night. I was desperate to show her how much she still meant to me. She has a tattoo that represents me on her body. All her family is represented this way, so I'm an amputee animal with a tribal marking. I didn't have a good source for the image, so I just redid the whole drawing on GIMP with a trackpad. It took me like 10 hours. Then I borrowed my father's car and went shopping. I found a cute octagonal wooden box. I had it laser engraved with the drawing. I bought a ring and put it inside, invited her to lunch, and then invited her to the beach to take a walk. But she didn't go for it. She said she'd rather go home and watch TV. FML. I can improvise though. I grabbed a small sign rock she had given me many years ago and placed it in my pocket. I started emptying my pockets, dropped the rock and said, "Oh, look what I have here," and showed her the rock. Have you heard the new Rob Dugan album? It's all orchestral. It's awesome. I put it on and invited her to dance. She is surprised. I don't dance, ever. We start dancing and I whisper that she should marry me and that I could show her how I can change, be more outgoing. I can make her happy. I'd even give her my small rock. She thought it was the rambling of a heartbroken boy and just answered, "I gave you that rock," while I grabbed the little box with the ring in it from my pocket and presented it to her. She cried a lot. I cried a lot. Wrong timing, she says. She dreamt about this for so long, and now I only do it when it's too late. I thought I still had a chance. She said she wanted to think it over, that she was confused. She didn't take the ring. So I asked a girl to marry me even though she was dating another guy. It's still pretty cringeworthy just thinking about the concept. It was just crazy enough to either work or fail magnificently in a blaze of glory. At least I gave it my all. Better late than never. That was absolutely not cringeworthy. You go, mate. Hope it turns out well. Please keep us updated. It was crazy and romantic, but the only way it'd not be cringeworthy is if she had said yes. It's cringeworthy because even if she didn't say no, she pretty much said, I don't know. She left the ring, the box, everything behind. I was already mentally prepared for that possibility. I was actually sure that was the most likely outcome, and despite being ready for the rejection, having my hope that she'd stay with me then and there crushed made me cry so hard my face started to go numb. I told her I had to fight for her. I told her I couldn't keep my arms crossed. She told me we'd speak in a week. The one thing I said I couldn't do is what she asked me to do. Just wait and hope for the best. It's terrifying. You did everything you could. Leave the rest to fate. You are a brave man. You will be fine, whatever the outcome. That's really rough. I hope you found some peace after this heartbreak. Story 32. My mom used to babysit her coworkers' 3 kids. One was a boy a little older than me. I wanted to show him I was cool and adventurous like him, so when he jumped over the fence, I tried to do it too. Only I was really fat as a kid, so I didn't make it over and my clothing got stuck. I just really slowly fell over until I was hanging by my pants, and he had to come help me down. Another time, he jumped off the swings, so then I tried, except I landed on my face. Elementary school was hard for me. Colin, I still love you. Story 33. I was around 8 or 9 and put a sticker of Daphne from Scooby-Doo on her door with a note saying, "From Fred." She was 3 years older than me. That wasn't even the end, as on Valentine's Day I made a card of Fred and Daphne in a love heart and gave it to her. It makes me cringe thinking about it. Story 34. In my 20s, I was teasing a guy I liked by pretending to set his hair on fire. Alcohol and drugs may have been involved, but the problem was he had some hairspray or hair gel in his hair, which I didn't know, and it actually went up in flames. Thankfully, it put itself out before hurting him. He did marry me later, but my god, will he never shut up about the time I set his hair on fire. OP literally ignited the flames of their love. I'm glad he wasn't hurt, and that it actually worked out. Thanks for watching and or listening to the end. If you have stories like these ones to share, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't. And for more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.